Okay, hello everyone. Today we'll be showcasing what we have been working on as a team that comprises of both M&A and data. We're a team of 5 individuals with a background of mostly finance and also computer science. It's been a great learning experience for sure, not necessarily in just the context of valuation or coding, but the soft skills of collaborativeness. I personally think it's incredible that what great ideas can be conceptualized from just working within a team. Next slide. We got together at first and tried to come up with an idea of what we can do for the data side. We came up with automating the valuation process that KVLR does whenever they receive financials. After some bits of talking and asking for advice, the upheld case study was also brought in as part of the project. From the flow chart, we can see that the start point had 2 outlets. We divided the team to work on the financial side and the coding aspect of it. On the left, we can see the financials are collected. In Upheld's case, we got information from public sources, and we worked on valuating the company. I believe we did 3 so far, 3 valuations so far, which we'll be getting back more and refining it better. For the private firms, we evaluated some financials that we had received from different practices. Then the valuation is done, the typical way using Excel. Then the other team, which is the data side, would work on, which is on the right side of the flow chart, would replicate the same exact process using Python code. The finance side of the team would provide the details of what we needed to achieve the goal that we wanted. Like on the next slide. On this particular slide, there's a tax return we would use to extract certain details by doing some sort of reverse calculations instead of deriving the same information from, say, the balance sheet. Okay, when a person is doing the valuation, it makes more sense to move back and forth between the financials. But in coding, at least from the point where we are right now, it made more sense just to derive as much information as possible from the same form at first. As we move further into the program, we will be able to have information from other parts of the returns. Currently, we can read both the income statement and the balance sheet, but we're not using much of the information derived from the balance sheet. We've put more emphasis on the income statement because earnings is the biggest part of KVLR's valuation process. There are many packages that are available to assist in our project, but most weren't as efficient or easily manipulated to get the results that we want. Helen would discuss this on the next slide.
All right, now we're gonna showcase our code. So we used Google Colab, which is very useful when we're coding in a group setting because we can all be shared and then we can all run the same code. So first up, we're just in any code. So first you have to install the libraries, like George mentioned just earlier. We are going to install PDF query, which is going to be used to extract information from our PDFs. And then here we're just importing our regular suite of libraries that are going to help us manipulate the data. All right, so the first actual step will be to actually load in the data or the PDF documents. So here we're using the PDF query function. And then here we have all the tax return files. So to run the Google Colab, you actually have to have it uploaded. So I have it here. And then we have 3 years, so 2019, 2020, and 2021 worth of data. So the 1120S is going to be where we're going to extract the income sheet variables from. So you see here, this is the income sheet. And then the SCHL is going to be the balance sheet. So we have the income sheet and the balance sheet for each year for 3 years. And here we're just loading and then writing those files so we can use them later on. Afterwards, we just wanted to define a couple of functions. So this first one is going to be to extract the specific income sheet variables from the PDF that you're going to load in here as the argument. So here we have a function, and the way PDF query works is that you're gonna input the coordinates of the thing you want to extract from the PDF, and then it'll get it. So these are the coordinates of the net revenue value, which is it'll just get the coordinates of like this value, and then it'll extract it. And then after we get all those variables, you want to put it in a data frame, which is kind of like a table, so that when you actually return the data frame, it'll give you the table of all those variables and their values. And then it's basically the exact same thing for the balance sheet variables. It's just some different coordinates and some different names. And again, we're just going to return a data frame. The next step would be then to combine all 3 years and all of the variables into a single data frame, which we're going to use later on to like access all the values. So up here, we're just calling the function that we declared earlier, the isvar, and then we're loading in the PDF that we had earlier. So then we're just going to combine all 3 of those into a single data frame. And then here we're also just doing some more formatting with the data frame. So this is just like adding the year column and making it the index. And then this section of the code is just turning each of the values into floats, which are kind of like decimals. And then if it has parentheses around them, that signifies that it's a lost value. So we want to replace that with a negative sign. Yeah, if you see here, like example is that we want to turn all of these numbers into decimals. And then here we have parentheses. So we want to put that in our data frame as a negative value. So that's what that portion of the code is for. And then here we're loading in and creating the balance sheet data frame. So here we're just going to combine all 3 again, and also just adding the year column. So this way they're very symmetrical, the IS and the BS. And then when you actually merge them two together, it'll be nice and clean. So we have all those values down there. And Deanna will take it from here.
Thank you, Helen. So from here, we kind of did focus more into income statement first because they're the most important metrics at this time. So first of all, we made another duplicate data frame, and ADF stands for assumptions data frame. And we got the same indexes as the same income statement data frame that we had previously. And then we made a for loop, which ranges from 3, because we have the 3 years worth of data, and then makes the assumptions based on each of the metrics per sales or the net revenue. So each this data frame is from the COGS to income on the very right side of the column. It's all divided by the net revenue of that year. And then the second for loop makes the growth rate for the net revenue. And then this is kind of really similar with the fundamental way of financial valuation, which we have the year, and then year's net revenue minus the past year's net revenue divided by the past year's net revenue plus 1 to make the growth rate from the past year to the year present. And so that is the data frame for the assumptions data frame. So if you go to the bottom, we averaged each of these columns out to make it into a one single row for the data frame for the assumptions average. And so that for loop also goes over to each of the columns and then makes it into the average. So now using this average assumptions, we multiplied by from 2021's revenue, we multiplied the net revenue column of the assumptions multiplied by the net revenue column of the 2021's. And then we forecasted the revenue of 2022. And then from there, we multiplied the rest of the assumptions, the net revenue based assumptions from COGS to the rest of the variables. And then we input it to the data frame. And we continued that from 2022 to 2023 and 2024. So as a result, on the bottom data frame, you can see that from 2022 to 2024 is the forecast for this business, specifically using the assumptions that we have derived from the past financials of this company. And so by 2024, this company is assumed to have a growth in revenue of up to $2 million. And the bottom part of after this, we did some like data visualization to kind of like have an idea of what to kind of input as we can, as we showed in the flow chart. The very last output of this this program, we want it as a data visualization and some sort of like an easier way for people to kind of see and compare these metrics and to evaluate this business. So here, we just kind of did like a sample data visualization for bar chart for using the forecasted data. So as you can see from 2019 to 2024, it has continuously gone up. And on the bottom, we kind of like made the bar graph for each, there's the revenue, and then comparatively the orange one is the COGS and the green one is the salaries and payment. So we can see that even though the revenue is going up, we're kind of seeing that even in 2021, the revenue went up, but the salary went down. And so we can kind of see these different metrics comparatively to the revenue movement. And on the bottom, we just tried out different ways of like plotting, the lollipop plot and the line graph. And so, yes, that is all we have so far. And should we go back to the slides? So from here on, we believe to, for the next steps, we want to kind of make these codes kind of into more of an automated process. So like once we input the tax document, then it should select the page that we want. So the 1120S and the Schedule L, which is the balance sheet within the tax document. And then it will do all these like automatically into by putting them into more into a loop. And then we also found out the way of calculating EBITDA. So then we would like to capture that as well. And the cash flow, for example, for the valuation processes. And we are also open to any ideas if the audience has more ideas to input for this project. Thank you very much for listening.
Exciting stuff. Does